Kim Iversen is now a Holocaust denier. That's not really surprising, I guess. I don't know. Kim Iversen doesn't have any real beliefs. Kim Iversen is one of the more transparent grifters. And the reason why you don't hear about Kim Iversen the same way that you hear about like Jason Hinkle or whatever is Kim Iversen isn't isn't smart or charismatic enough to grift properly. Her grifts are always too obvious, you know? She fell onto the hill, right? But like it doesn't last. She doesn't have the presence for it, you know? So she's going to try to grift now that like Nazism is in vogue, you know, now that that's fashionable. I've never heard of her. I used to do videos on her back when she was somewhat relevant, I think.
Skepticism, everything is Holocaust denial, even though that has a very specific meaning. So we are seeing a rise of Holocaust questioning, Holocaust skepticism.
And many other statements made by people who definitely aren't Holocaust deniers.
For me personally, I think, of course, there's some exaggeration. I think with the, you know, I do think, of course, there's some exaggeration to the stories. There was absolutely 100% an atrocity that was committed against the Jewish people during World War II. I think that's undeniable. We've seen we have photographic evidence, we have eyewitnesses, we've got logs.
This has always been one of the most cowardly forms of Holocaust denial, where you're like, well, there were exaggerations. If I asked you to describe an encounter you had with a store clerk who was rude to you, there would be exaggerations. What do you mean? Everything gets exaggerated, always, by everyone, all the time. But the exaggerations aren't the historical narrative. Whether or not you actually talked to a store clerk or whether or not they were rude to you has nothing to do with whether or not you went on to exaggerate it. They're like, some people who said that they were Holocaust survivors were found to have lied. Yeah, there were people who lied about being in the Vietnam War. Like thousands of them. Does that mean the Vietnam War didn't happen? Obviously, any big historical event is going to have a ton of people who lie or exaggerate or overstate things, but that's not the historical record, you know? That's a totally different, like, it's so weak, you know? It's so inept, it's flaccid, it's nothing.
The Germans kept great records. We know that they committed
No, the Germans kept horrible records, actually. We know about the Holocaust in large part because A, we can draw from census data, hey, where did all these millions of people disappear to? That's crazy. And B, because the Nazis weren't able to cover their tracks. You guys know the Nazis were trying to destroy evidence of the Holocaust when they realized they were losing the war, right? Like, they realized that what they did was so morally indefensible that basically a bunch of German officers, Nazis, whatever, they knew, hey, we're going to lose the war and we are going to hang. They knew what they did was wrong. Don't get it twisted, all right? They knew. They knew that when all that was discovered, their asses were going straight to the gallows, okay? So they thought, oh, okay, hold on, you know, we gotta, you know, yeah, exactly, mom's coming home quickly. Hide the piss sock or whatever. They knew. And they did a bad job hiding the evidence. As it turns out, it's actually really, really difficult to hide the entire Holocaust. So there's a lot, you know? Yes, but they did keep good records. They kind of did. They kept good records in some respects. In other respects, they didn't. There was very little consistency, you know? A lot of the people who died, like, for instance, millions of people who died in the Holocaust didn't die in the gas chambers. They just died, they got shot, they got dropped off trains, they just got disappeared. You know, like in the Warsaw ghettos, they would be like rounded up and sometimes they would just be pushed into a room, raped, and they'd toss a grenade in there. Like, there were good records in some specific contexts, but a lot of people, and by a lot of, I mean millions of them, died just in a less mechanized fashion. So it varies. But yes, and then the evidence, the records they did keep, they burned. Or at least they burned part of it, not all of it. The Holocaust started in 1941. I think the Holocaust started in the 1930s because I think the Holocaust refers to a historical process of genocide and not just to the moment they turned the tap on the, you know, Zyklon B, right? I think in order to be understood, it's, you know, I think you have to approach it as kind of like a broader, you know, thing. Sorry, I'm very tired. The Night of Long Knives at the beginning. You're thinking of the Night of Broken Glass. The Night of Broken Glass was a pogrom supported by the Nazi Party against the Jewish people and businesses. The Night of Long Knives was the purge of the Nazi Party of the Strasserite element.
Horrible, horrible atrocity against the Jewish people and any other group of people they deemed to be undesirable, the Jewish people being the top of that list. Now, were the numbers inflated? Was it 6 million? I don't know. Was it, did they turn Jewish people into lampshades and soap? I think that's been debunked, right? There's things that I think have been exaggerated, but that is not done by just the Jewish people. That's done by the victors and the victims. And that happens in every single war. That happens in just everyday life. Whenever there's a hero, the story kind of gets inflated.
What is the purpose of so I don't know why I'm asking rhetorically. The purpose of this is to fire like a signal flare in the air and say, hey, Nazis, I'm on your side, but like also YouTube, don't demonetize me, please. That's it, No, it's literally in the Holocaust Museum. Guys, the cool thing about talking about the Holocaust is that if you say any bad thing happened, it probably did. The Nazis were monsters and still are. You would just say you can like ad lib that shit, string together random words. What did the Nazis do? Well, if it made people suffer, they probably did it, you can fairly arrive at that assumption. It's literally the most well-researched atrocity in human history. It is the historical event of its era for which we have proportional to its like geographic scope. Nothing else has this much evidence compiled on it. You have wars that span the planet, sure, but as historical events go, it's one of the most substantially documented things ever.
Right? Because the hero wants to sound more like a hero than they really were. The victim, people want to find out what horrible thing happened to you, and then they ask them to tell the story, and they kind of prod it and poke it into a way where, of course,
the lampshade is real. Yeah, my understanding is that it is, but it also doesn't matter. It's like, I heard a story in the Holocaust about one guy who got hit with a hammer 5 million times. And turns out it was only 500. How many times do you think you can hit one body with a hammer, you idiot? Guess there's exaggerations all over the place. It's completely tangential to anything like meaningful about this, who cares?
It exaggerates a bit. To what level? It depends. Sometimes things are grossly exaggerated. Sometimes they're just minimally exaggerated. But of course, history is written by the victors. And so,
no, it's not. The more accurate, like low IQ, simple aphorism you could use is history is written by the survivors. It's like the Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire won, what it didn't have is this sort of like ethnic cultural longevity that allowed its stories to be told favorably in the same way the Roman Empire did. The Roman Empire, in many ways, won, right? But nothing lasts forever. And as time went on, there were a lot of people who saw themselves as the inheritors of the legacy of the Romans. They talked about it favorably. European aristocrats talked about the Romans like, the historical ancestors of Christendom because this or that or Europe or what. There were a bunch of different narratives. History is written by the survivors, I think.
So yes, I think that if you're being a healthy, skeptical, logical person, you would read the history books and know that it makes us look great as victors that saved the Jews from this horrible Holocaust if it's slightly exaggerated.
Isn't it convenient when you're reading history books, the way it makes it look like it was good that we stopped the Holocaust? Should be setting off some alarm bells in your skeptical mind.
The Jews look more victimized if the victimization was horrific, maybe more horrific than it was really horrific, though.
I was wondering if she was gonna. It makes the Jews look more, like victims if it was really horrific. I mean, it was horrific. Yeah, she can't fully commit to the bit. It's like, wait, hold on. I'm not denying it that hard.
More victimized if the victimization was horrific, maybe more horrific than it was really horrific.
Literally see you literally see her like actually backpedal. Really, she's wait.
Horrific, though. I don't think that that's really truly disputed. But
Quick save.
But then, I'm probably going to be called a Holocaust denier for even just having a logical outlook of how history is written.
And then she immediately gets defensive. I mean, right after that one, she's like, people will call me a Holocaust denier for implying that the idea that the Holocaust was horrific was an exaggeration, you know? All right, yeah, pretty dumb. She's not as good at grifting as some of her contemporaries, so. By the way, for those of you who don't remember, Kim Iversen was another one of those, like, principled leftists who didn't want to vote for Biden back in 2020 because, she was holding out for Bernie. It sure is weird how many people there are who staked their claim on leftism as being the, like, principled, I refuse to vote for a liberal, and now they're all Nazis. You know, it's very, like, literally so many people from that demographic ended up just openly, Jimmy Dore, exact same with Jimmy Dore. Yeah, exact same thing. Well, he's not a Nazi. He's just, any conspiracy under the sun that he can use to string mentally ill people along. Hinkle as well. It's sort of the main example, really, of it. The Mussolini pipeline. Yeah, no kidding. All the best fascists used to be socialists, actually. Yeah, it's just not 6 million dead. It's 6 million Jewish people dead. Yeah, it's 6 million Jewish people. Obviously, Jews were the main target. I do wish it was like, the total numbers are like 10 or 11 million, I think, in the Holocaust. And even that, I've heard like higher figures, depending on how far out you stretch the definition, I guess, or how like, which mass graves you count. I thought it was 60 million. That might be the number of people who died altogether in World War II, including the Holocaust. I do think it's weird that only the Jews are counted. They're not. That's not. People just tend to refer to the Holocaust in the context of anti-Semitism, Would you consider Soviet citizens and Poles killed as part of the broader Holocaust? No. A lot of people died during wartime, but I think in order for you to count as a group of people who died in the Holocaust, you needed to have been like a specific political enemy, right? Not just in a general, you're in an occupied territory, you're being treated poorly or being killed kind of way, but in like a ridding society of the undesirables kind of way. I think it's a blurry line, right? Because like, what really is the difference between indiscriminately killing Soviet citizens and like killing communists in Germany? And like, I agree, there's not like a hard line there. Just, I feel like there is a meaningful distinction between war deaths and the Holocaust, The Nazis did plan to exterminate the Slavic people, though. Yeah, and to the extent that that took place in that context, I think you could count it as. What about the Japanese camps? That's not the Holocaust. That's a different thing. The Japanese internment camps were pretty bad and a stain on FDR's legacy. Oh yeah, for sure. They weren't genocide, but yeah, they definitely were really bad. Yeah.